The birth of the 9-day Queen. There is a time to be born and a time to die, and the day of our death is better than the day of our birth. Poignant words of the 17-year-old Lady Jane Grey. They are found immortalised in an exquisitely decorated prayer book that she treasured until her final moments. It is ironic that the words have a truth to them. The young, courageous woman of intellect and royal blood, whose death is greatly documented, began her life in such an obscure manner. That of her birth and its precise circumstances are lost to us. Due to her rights by blood, we only have the certainty that Jane was born as a potential heir to the throne of England. She was a Tudor, a member of the royal family, and it would be these connections that shaped her life to come. Jane was a member of the royal family through her mother, Frances. Frances Brandon was the child herself of Charles Brandon, the Duke of Suffolk, and Mary Tudor, Queen of France, the younger sister of Henry VIII, making Jane his great niece. Since the moment of her death, historians have debated upon the date of her birth. Even to today does this debate, in some form of way, continue. Born into an age where details to go unrecorded was not unusual, along with the combination of her gender bringing down the importance of such a precise record, Jane, much like other little royals such as the first Elizabeth Tudor, remains a mystery. Her not being noted is hardly surprising, as she was one of several girls born to the Tudor dynasty within the past 3 decades, and very few had precise date recordings. Although we have well documentation of a number of Jane's surviving letters, we do not find any record she herself made of her birth. Only references of her age and her youth and inexperience to stress the points of her argument. These statements, unfortunately, lead a wide opening to the date of her birth. Now, I know some people may think this debate on her birth to be rather trivial. However, the mystery of her birth is one of the last great secrets of Jane's life. Her youth became the central point of her story, and even her infancy has been recorded due to her interactions with other royals. It seems only her beginning remains shrouded in shadow. For many centuries, one theory dominated the debate. This was that Jane had been born in October 1537. This would make her born either days prior or days after the arrival of Henry VIII's long-awaited male heir, and subsequently death of his queen. A theory that, if it were correct, could easily explain why Jane's birth was not recorded, as it was seen as insignificant compared to the monarch's news in the royal court. However, this theory has since been disproved. The largest piece of evidence to disprove lies not in Jane herself, but her own mother, Frances. Frances, the Marchioness of Dorset, like many individuals, was invited and expected to attend the christening of Prince Edward on the 15th of October. Due to the Tudor custom of lying in and being churched for a mother when she was close to or had just had her labour, if Frances was still pregnant in her last months or just given birth to Jane, she would not have been expected to attend such an event. The fact she was makes the theory of October 1537 null and void. The second theory, that throughout the years built up momentum and is currently seen as the most plausible, is that Jane was born in the latter half of the year 1536. There is a few pieces of evidence that can help back this theory up. One of the most convincing is a letter written on the 29th of May 1551. This letter was written by Jane's tutor, John Aylmer, to the Swiss reformer Henrik Bullinger. During this letter, Aylmer notes Jane's age, and you are well able to determine in your wisdom how useful are the counsels of the aged to guide and direct young persons at her time of life, which is just 14. Now, there are some historians who have just taken the words just 14 into account when making their arguments, removing it from the context of the entire letter. When it is removed from the letter's context, it implicates that Jane herself had only recently turned 14, which, if indeed that had been the case, Jane's birth would have been in the spring of 1537. However, if you continue the letter after the words just 14, the proper context of that remark changes. For at that age, as the comic poet tells us, all people are inclined to follow their own ways, and by the attractiveness of the objects and the corruption of nature are more easily carried headlong into pleasure. So to these tender minds there should neither be wanting the counsel of the aged nor the authority of men of grave and influential character. It seems that Elmer is using Jane's age not to highlight her recent turning to 14, but to highlight the difference between the young and the old, stressing the aversion of the youth heeding advice from their elders, not to be therefore taken as conclusive evidence to Jane's recent birthday. However, if Elmer is correct in stating Jane is 14 on the 29th of May 1551, then a birthday in the late 1536 is entirely probable. It is with much certainty that Elmer was in a good position to know the truth of Jane's age as her tutor. He is also known to have looked upon her with affection as a pupil, so would be likely to remember facts in detail. If this was to be corroborated with Jane's Italian tutor, Michelangelo Florio, who states that Jane was 17 at the time of her death on February the 12th, 1554, but was in her 18th year, the evidence points to a late 1536 birth date. Alas, the precise date of her birth will never be asserted with any certainty, unless new evidence is brought to light. As the debate on her birth year settles and cools with less debates, the mystery of this queen's birth becomes half revealed, though there is still many questions surrounding her birth and first few years. This question has been partially answered. If you would like to learn more about this Tudor royal, don't forget to leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next video.